that's when I'm going to hold her up as high as I can so you guys back there can see. And of course, you guys hear the front as well. Okay, so I heard it when I was actually pulling her out of her crate here. I heard somebody say hedgehog. So, fun fact, this is actually not a hedgehog. I'm going to get into that in just a moment. You might think it is, right? Because it looks like one. But this is actually a tenrec. So how many of you guys have heard of that animal, tenrec? Tenrec, tenrec. A couple of you maybe? All right, well, usually people are not, you have, back here, somebody said it? Usually people are not very familiar with them, and that's okay. So Tenrecs are native to Madagascar. So this is an island very far away from here, off the coast of Africa. And it's got a pretty amazing biodiversity. And Tenrecs is just one of the mammal groups that is native to that island and only that island. So some Tenrecs look like hedgehogs, like my friend here. There are some that look more like mice, some look more like shrews. Others look more like moles. So they have adapted to different lifestyles. And so what we have going on is something that we in biology call convergence, where you have two animals that are not really related to each other than the fact that they're mammals. But because they have similar diets, similar environments, similar weather where they live, similar predatory pressures, you end up with them looking almost exactly the same. So that's what's going on here. This one, because it has a lifestyle very much similar to that of a hedgehog, which comes from Eurasia, ended up looking very much like a hedgehog. There are a few differences though to look at. You really kind of want to look at the face. The eyes of a hedgehog are different. There's also some behavioral differences as well. Tenrecs are more primitive, so there's also some internal anatomy differences. But otherwise, yeah, you would be fooled because they look essentially like hedgehogs. So this species specifically is called the lesser hedgehog tenrec. So even there, you can be tricked because in the name of this animal, you do have the word hedgehog, right? But it is important to then say the other word, which is tenrec. So a lesser hedgehog tenrec. And we actually have two tenrecs here with us at River Legacy. So this one, her name, and so this is a female, we believe, and I'll get into that in just a moment. This one, her name is Monty, okay? It actually was or is still Edmontosaurus, like the dinosaur, but you know, it's kind of a mouthful to say that, especially fast, so we just went ahead and switched it over to Monty. So in Madagascar, what they're doing out there, they're looking for bugs all the time, using that very awesome nose right there that she's using at the moment to kind of gauge her surroundings, seeing everybody, smelling everybody. And so they are excellent bug finders. Okay, that's what they're doing out there, and that's what they eat. Here at River Legacy, we actually do feed them bugs. So we have crickets, and they love the crickets. In fact, she would eat them all up if she could. They also love cockroaches. Now, we don't just grab the nasty cockroaches that you find in the bathroom. We actually have a different species of cockroach called a dubia cockroach that we breed in order to feed our animals. So they're actually quite clean and not as gross as the American or German or Oriental cockroaches. Nonetheless, they're still roaches, but these guys love them. So that's primarily what they eat. They also eat a special kibble diet, so similar to what you give your dogs and cats. So it's got enough nutrients for them. But out in the wild, that's what they're doing. Out there on trees, on the ground, they're looking for bugs, for insects. And they actually are excellent climbers. So I'm going to see if she wants to move on my arm, because sometimes she does. And so hopefully you'll see just kind of how she moves around. But they are excellent climbers. You know, for an animal like this, you might think that they would like to stay on the ground, but they actually can get up on trees a lot. So, yeah, she's kind of doing it, so we'll give her a few minutes to see if she wants to go all the way up here. But this is, like I mentioned, the name of the species, right? Lesser hedgehog tenrec. There is a greater hedgehog tenrec, which is typically twice the size of these animals. So it is quite a noticeable difference. Yeah, she's very, I did wake her up, so maybe that she's kind of like unsure of what's going on, but they are primarily nocturnal, so she was still sleeping. But in the at night, so in their enclosure, we have a hamster wheel. And at night, we can sometimes see through the cameras, they actually use that. But I've never actually seen it in person because during the day, they're mostly sleeping. But they are quite active at night. That is definitely their preferred time to be active. And just like hedgehogs, they do have quills, and they're kind of like bristles. They're not really stiff or pokey, but they can poke you. And when they feel threatened or scared, they will roll up into a ball like a hedgehog would, and then they can spike them up and puff them up a little bit. And so that allows them to be somewhat protected. But you know, there's obviously still animals that can get them even with those quills. In Madagascar, there's a couple, but for the most part, it is something that definitely serves them very well. They do have kind of a slow metabolism in general, so during the winter time, they actually go into a state of, it's called torpor, which is similar to hibernation, but not quite the same. They essentially just slow down, they tend to lose some weight, and they don't eat very much, but they're not like sleeping all the time, like hibernation. But this is something that reptiles do, and so they do have a lot of other characteristics similar to reptiles. So that behavior that I just mentioned, they have a cloaca also, which is a hole where the waste comes out of, but also it's basically the birth canal. And so that is very much a reptilian characteristic. So they are considered kind of primitive within the like greater mammalian family tree. So they do have some interesting kind of primitive or old behaviors. And another thing that they do, yeah, they do sniff a lot all the time. Well, she's kind of doing that right now, but yeah, that strong sense of smell. You know, any animal with a snout like that, you know, our faces are pretty flat, so like, I can't remember the number, but we have a very limited number of smell cells, basically, compared to most animals, especially like things that are like protruding, right? Like dogs, Tenrecs, or really anything that is like that. They're going to have a better sense of smell than our, in a case of primates like us. So she is definitely employing that out there in the wild if she were a wild animal, looking for bugs, looking for things like that. Let's see, maybe I can put her over my other hand so I can keep track of the time. Fun fact too, again, kind of going back to relatedness and family trees and all of that, these guys are more related to elephants than they are to hedgehogs or even us. So within the mammalian tree, they diverge from a branch that actually gave rise to elephants, hyraxes, and other really interesting creatures. So pretty amazing because, again, they look like hedgehogs, right? But convergence is a pretty powerful thing that happens quite a lot, actually, in mammals and other animals as well. There are moles, for instance, that are marsupial moles, and there are moles that are just regular moles. They're not related at all. Marsupial moles are more related to kangaroos and opossums than they would be the regular moles, even though superficially, right, they would look the same, or very close to the same. So any questions that you guys may have about my friend here? Yes? You know, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I know they can. So the quills are basically modified hair, so they are attached to a very tiny muscle. This is why you get goosebumps, actually, because you have a tiny muscle there. And so I think there's a possibility, but I have not seen her do that at all. So that would be something that I would have to look up to see if Tenrecs can do that. So, yeah. Right, yeah. That's right. And so if they don't, then that's another way you can tell them apart by, yeah. Any other questions about Monty the Tenrec? Anything? Anybody?
Is the blue on it? Is it?
What's that?
Is it part of his
Oh
hair?
yeah, good question. Yeah, so you can see, especially you in the front, you can see that blue part right here. So yes, the reason why that's there, so the previous owner, which is actually a store here in Arlington, I believe, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is here. They actually had two Tenrecs when we obtained them, and they were more or less, especially when they were very young, they were more or less the same size. So in order to tell them apart, they went ahead and put that dye. Now it doesn't affect the animal in any way, and it's actually fading. So eventually it'll probably just be gone. But what's interesting is that now, even though they are being fed the same things all the time, now this one, Monty, is almost twice the size of Ryan, who's the other Tenrec. And so we believe that this means this is a female. We can't know for sure 100% because being primitive mammals, you can't look at external anatomy. There's nothing to look at that will tell you. You would have to go inside a cloaca and look. And so we're not sure, but we believe based on the size, that because females tend to be larger than the males, that this is female and Ryan is male. And so the blue is really no longer needed at this point because she's just pretty big. But yeah, that's a good question because people wonder if it's a natural thing or not. It is not, but it's not something that harms the animal. I guess kind of like one of those like one-day tattoos kind of thing, right? Except that's not fun. All right. Any other questions about the Tenrecs or Monty in general?
Is that how big they get, or they stay little like that?
This species. This is a big one of this species. So this is probably the upper limits of the size. The greater hedgehog Tenrec would be a little bit bigger, maybe twice this size. But Tenrecs in general don't get huge. I mean, they are small animals. Think of rat size, mouse size, shrew size. So they're not huge animals at all. And I really encourage you guys to look up Tenrecs in general. There is one very cool one called I think it's called a yellow-black streaked Tenrec, and it's a very bizarre animal. It's like the name indicates, it's got these bands of yellow and black. It lives on the forest floor in the leaf litter, and there's really nothing like it other than in those forests in Madagascar. So there are a lot of Tenrecs that are quite different. All right.